If you're a builder, remodeler, trade partner, architect, designer looking to grow your business, expand your network, and learn from some of the best minds in the industry, then you need to be at the Contractor Coalition Summit. It will be held November 6th through 9th in Charlotte, North Carolina, and this is not your typical conference. The Contractor Coalition Summit is built around real conversations, real relationships, and real strategies that you can take back and implement immediately. You'll connect with top performing contractors from across the country, hear from industry leaders, and gain insights on leadership, operations, sales, marketing, culture, profitability, and AI. Whether you're looking to scale your business, improve your systems, or simply surround yourself with people who are pushing the industry forward, this event is for you. We will see you November 6th through 9th, Charlotte, North Carolina. Go to www.contractorcoalitionsummit.com and register and sign up.
The goal is to come out of that meeting and what are the top things right now that are really holding us back as the company? And what can we implement to go fix them?
Well, super excited about the podcast today. We have Zach with us. Welcome, Zach.
Hey, Brad, how you doing?
Very good. So Zach Patton, he's a COO of Black Wolf Build. And although we've, been connected from afar for a long time, we finally got, I got to come out to an event you hosted with Buildertrend out there in Nashville. So
that's right. Yeah, Builder Bond. That was cool. That was kind of out of nowhere. I think this was the first one that they've done. And when they reached out, asked if we wanted to be the host, we were of course flattered and happy to do it. And love this town. I'm happy that they chose it, and then got a chance to meet a bunch of really awesome builders, including yourself. So yeah, that was fun.
Well, maybe we start there. I think what's unique is two parts of this. One, you've had a great reputation. You guys have built that in a fairly short time. You're in a market that's exploding, so your business is exploding. Nashville's exploding. How are you managing both of them simultaneously?
Yeah, and that's a great question, and one that I feel very blessed, I should say, first off, because I'm in a peer group, and I know not every market in the country is going as well as Nashville, and I just feel super lucky to be in a very hot market. So really at this point, we're really focused on doing a great job with the jobs that are under our that we're taking on right now. So I would say that's our main focus, and all of us coming from different backgrounds. So there's let me back up. There's 3 owners of the company: myself, my brother Patrick, and then a guy named Taylor Milliken. So all 3 of us came when we started Blackwell with a super clear vision of we wanted to really build a systems first company, someone that was not just from by the seat of their pants. Because there's a lot of people in town who have maybe kind of dabbled in home building and just taken advantage of a good market. They bought a piece of dirt, put a spec home on it, and we really wanted to bring a better product to the market. So we're very intentional on the front end to be very systems driven and really focus on maximizing process and not just focusing on a profit. So we've been able to do that, and we're 4.5 years in the business now, and we've just really got some exciting stuff coming up soon, and we feel like we're super prepped for it. Like you said, we're in a really fun market. We've had a lot of fun with the branding. Just the name in general is fun. My brother does some graphic design work on the side, so he's always pumping out something new, some way to put our logo on something. And just really started with the mentality of there's just so many horror stories of people who have been through a terrible building experience. They weren't on schedule. They didn't know the budget. They felt like the builder was never there, or they were cutting corners. So we feel like the bar was kind of low. Now there's plenty of good builders here in Nashville. I'm sure there's guys that you know as well. So I'm not saying this is by any means how all of Nashville is, but we just saw that there was more room in the market to go into custom building and to just really bring a really good client experience out of it. So that's what we've really focused our company on.
That's amazing. I want to come back to the systems side, systems first, but as you get together, Patrick and Taylor, what does that look like? There's a lot of benefits to having partners or how you form a company. There's strategy. There's at times there could be conflict, between who's doing what, and what does that structure look like for you guys to have partnered together to figure out who does what role? What does that look like for end all decision making? I mean, how tough has that been?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny, like, almost anybody that I meet that learns that, like, we have business partners, there's, like, this negative, perception to it because everyone's like, "Oh, man," it's, like, so many bad stories about, like, how that's ended, but, um, I feel the opposite. So we've all got, very clear roles. Now, like, at the beginning, it was very much like everybody's doing everything, let's just try and, like, sell, 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 and then, once we got a little bit of scale to us, about a year and a half in, we started to define our roles a little bit more. So we just naturally found that I was more kind of the front of house, if you'd say that. So sales, construction, warranty, so everything that's more like client and customer facing. And then my brother really was naturally trending towards back of house. So he really likes to dig into the financials. And the more and more that we learned about custom building, we learned that, I mean, I thought the biggest challenge we would have coming into this company would be like, executing high levels of builds. And of course that's part of it. But really the biggest thing that we had to like really speed up and like learn quickly was the financial side of it. Cause it can be a total
Hmm.
bear if you don't have your whip under control and you're not like, I mean, for a few years we were not really disciplined on like how we were running financials through, and it just started to show. So once we kind of got the skill that we needed, we realized that, you know what, Zach, why don't you just focus on sales, building the homes, really trade facing, client facing, and then let me just spend time back of house, doing a lot of the bidding, paying a lot of the bills, doing a lot of the stuff that's like behind the scenes. And that's been a really good thing for us. And then our third partner, Taylor. So Taylor has taken a landscape company from literally him just mowing yards and pulling a mower behind his truck. Now he's got 100 plus employees. He's been in business for 20 plus years. And it was almost just a natural fit for us when we were, talking about doing starting the business. My brother and I felt like we like needed someone else to kind of like, pour gas on the fire and just like really help us like grow quicker. And Taylor was just came in with a ton of knowledge on like entrepreneurship and like how to really go from like, hey, like if I could start this over, here's what I would do type principles. And that's a lot of stuff that we've been applying along the way. So he doesn't play a day-to-day role in the business. He's really just been kind of CEO, like kind of like visionary. It's like what I would call his role in the company. And then my brother and I are executing the day-to-day work.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, you realize how quick it is to define roles, right? When you mention systems, and I know, if I'm not mistaken, you guys do EOS too. Is that something you've implemented in the company?
We do, yes, yeah, and that's been super helpful. So that's the entrepreneur operating system, which
Mhm.
um, pretty much like an out of the box that like can be applied to almost any industry. And if you've heard about rocks or quarterly huddles or the vision traction or was that the vision traction or organizer, all those things come out of EOS. So I'm not gonna lie, like at first my brother and I kind of fought it, but like Taylor really leaned into it hard. He has taken his company from not using anything to being fully integrated in EOS, and like he just kept being that like steady accountability, like guys, like we've got to follow and be really disciplined to follow these things if we want to truly build a company. And I think had it been left to just me and Patrick, like we probably just would have been like flying by the seat of our pants a little bit, and being like, you know what, we don't need to meet this week. You know what, we're really busy this quarter. Let's not set any rocks. You know what, we don't need to write processes. Like it's just me and you figuring this out. But it was nice to have that. And then that's really like one of the other pros that like I'm sitting here thinking about partnership. You got someone that you kind of answer to, so you like you
Mhm.
almost hold yourself a little bit higher standard just because you don't want to let them down. So when you agree to do something or you put it out there that you're going to complete this task or go write this process, you got someone else ask you about that week in and week out. It's like it's got to get done. Yeah.
It makes a big difference. I mean, having that accountability, and that's why, to your point, it's really, as you think about it, it's really important for, look, if you're a sole operator, you got to have someone make you accountable, right? I mean, if you have partnership, yes, you're going to have you can put pressure on each other essentially, but still having someone that's outside of that, like EOS, where you have someone who's working with you, Zach, that's working with, you and your brother Pat, yeah, you and your brother Patrick, as you guys are figuring this out. Because defined roles, like, yes, there's two parts. If everyone has a defined role and you have a system, it really allows a couple things. One, you become more efficient, right? Which helps the bottom line. And company culture. But if someone does leave, which people leave, right? It's construction. It allows you to step in and not miss a beat, because like the fact of the matter is you and I deal with turnover. Like it's construction. You're going to have turnover for a lot of different reasons.
Yeah. I mean, I think just really like when someone comes on board here, like it's a lot to take on. Like this is how we want to write a daily log. This is how we want to populate a schedule. This is how we upload a selection. So we've got all this kind of thought out and written out. And like, of course, by no means do we have it all figured out, but the idea is just to make it to where it's not like reinventing the wheel. Like, okay, got a new project. What's next? It's like this stuff is all second nature, and we're able to just move a little more quickly. And turnover's tough. I mean, we've been lucky to only have one person leave our company. We had to let them go, and honestly, just probably hung on too long. But it was our first hire, and it just wasn't a good fit on like either side. But that was a lot of lessons learned there. That things like that are kind of like wake up calls. So like, hey, like now it's time to really start being serious about documenting this, so that we can set the next person up for a success.
How did that, I don't want to say benefit you, but how did that maybe make you take a step back when you have that first person leave, whether it was on their own will or it was just an agreement to, move a different direction? What were those lessons learned, as you think about now you're rehiring and, onboarding someone else?
Yeah, I mean, hindsight, we were young in our company, and we really put value on hiring someone who's a little bit more affordable, just someone that was younger in their career, not quite as experienced. Yes, like we can like teach them all this. It's kind of like we can like figure this out on the fly, and just hindsight, we're a new company, we're taking on some really really cool projects, and we don't have the room to really help someone move along. Like we need somebody to like come in day one and like have an impact on the business. So that was a big lesson learned. So like, hiring someone that's like already got the experience, and not, while we're trying to stand up a company, we're trying to stand up an employee as well. So that was big. And then we just didn't do a great job on onboarding him, really. Like looking back, just like when he like started, it was like, hey, here's your jobs. And it was just very much like ride along with me for a few weeks, then we're just going to cut you loose. So not having a clear onboarding roadmap, explaining to them, hey, here are our expectations. Here's how we do them. And now let's check in once a week to make sure that you're fully understanding your role, you're fully understanding what you're supposed to be doing. So we now have those things in place, but back then we did not. So just really, looking back and like taking our time in the hiring process is like number one. So hire slow, fire fast. And then when there is an issue, just address it immediately, and then don't be tempted to make a lot of excuses and put this back on yourself. It's like, well, I didn't do this, I didn't do that, so like let's just give them another chance. Let's just give them another chance. And like just being able to have those tougher conversations just takes time, and just for me, like always to be like very sure of myself that like I'm going to sit down with this employee that like I've really got everything thought out. I've given them every like fair shake before I like have to sit down and like have that like ultimate hard conversation. So those are just some things that I've learned along the way.
When did you know it was time to hire EOS? And the reason being is you mentioned part of the reason you started the way you did is said we want to focus on systems. Like that's a huge thing. We see that as a competitive edge for our company in construction, which I would agree. Whether you're in Nashville or Scottsdale or anywhere, I think most of us have an idea of how we build the home, but running a company is totally different. And then every home is different in itself. And so you find yourself putting out a lot of fires and falling into routine habits as opposed to, creating SOP. And so when you come into the business and you're like, we're going to start, we're going to run the system driven. When did you realize, hey, we also need some additional help from EOS to figure out, are we on the right path? Are we on the right track? Like there's so much to it,
Yeah, so we got lucky. So Taylor is not officially an implementer, but he has done this for a few other companies. So he has been in EOS for a long time, and really like we had him able to kind of help us guide us through that. So like I remember our first formation meeting, like we were already talking about, and like I've printed this off, like we were printing out our VPO going through. we spent a lot of time putting together our core values and just really, really understanding like what do we want to be as a company. And I think, we had it very lucky because I spent 10 years in production building at a very systems based company there as well, and got to see it done. And then I felt like it was kind of like my chance to go do it, but like tweak it slightly. So when we started the company, like we all had our like separate jobs, but like we would meet together once a week for like 6 months, and like we were just like building the business plan. So we really took our time, and I mean we spent 3 hours just coming up with like the core values, and then like the week after we're like, no, I slept on it. I don't really like this one. Doesn't really speak to me. Like I'm not sure like if I'm in that scenario where am I going left or right? Like with this core value, like give me the guidance. So like we like truly spent a lot of time to make them fun, make them meaningful, and like not just something that like we're gonna print and put on the wall and like walk past. Like these are like in our everyday language. Just for example, one of our favorite core values is raise the bar. So it's just that constant reminder to always be looking to get better. Like you can meet old trades a lot. They're like, I've been doing it this way for 20 years. It's like, well, there's a new way. So we have what's called the RTB guide. So this is like our document that we use when we go to bid out projects. So we've got a huge long Word document that's, plumbing, HVAC, framing labor. And along the way, as we go to a builder conference and we see some new product, we see some new method, or see something on Instagram, or see another builder like you doing something, we're going to throw it on that RTB guide. So we're going to continue to raise the bar. And that's just a way that, the next house that we bid, we're not going to include this new method or this new product. So yeah, starting with the core values was super important. Understanding what really our core focus was. So we were just really blessed to be able to like have the time to do that. I feel like most entrepreneurs that I talk to, start a home building company by themselves, and they don't have the ability like we had to really sit down and think like, how do we want this to look? So, yeah, I mean, I don't know if that helps kind of like paint the picture, but I mean, I'd be curious on your journey as well. Like, is this something, do you run EOS? Have you tried it? Because I mean, I thought some people do it or like kind of like dabble in it, but I'd be curious to hear your history as well.
No, yeah, it's a good question. It's I'm very familiar with it because through a few organizations I'm associated with, they're a big partner. I have a lot of peers inside and outside the industry here in town that have used EOS. In fact, some of my trades who I do a lot of work with, some of my vendors, trade partners are very active, kind of as you mentioned with Taylor, where, this is someone who ran a big company. And so you see some of my trades that are very effective have used this, this leadership, right? The operating system, they've learned. I think what's unique for me, again, I probably took a little bit longer than you did, like just, going through the bumps and bruises of running company. And I was fortunate to join a Builder 20. And so in a way, it's a little bit different. It's much different than, EOS, but you have, they do like a SWOT. So I had where, 5 of my peers in the Builder 20 come down and they interview all my employees. They interview my trades, my architects, designers, clients. Yeah. And wow. I'm not in the room. So it's a little bit more in depth where they're doing a 3-day analysis of my strengths, my weaknesses, my opportunities, and my threats, right? And so, having some of those experiences, now again, it's going to be a little bit different, but I, very similar principles in the sense of, when they came down and evaluated my business 4 years ago, do you have the right people on the bus? Are they in the right seat? Where are the gaps, that I'm missing as a business owner? And so on a more personal level, they do that. And so I think there's just a lot of ways to go about this. And fortunately, probably similar to you, I've, early on, I have Spencer, who's our director of operations, and he's a great implementer, so yeah. I know where his strength is. And we just, had a production meeting last week and rolled out AFT 360. And it's kind of a new look on our operations. And we've been working on this for a few years now. So we're continuing the progression there, but I do agree at the core that, the systems are really important and it's really hard to focus on that. And I'm sure you'd agree, Zach. It's just, in our business, it's really easy to get, to focus on things that, look, at the end of the day, we have to have cash flow. You have to have jobs coming in. It's a hamster wheel. So this hamster
Yeah.
wheel continues, and you got to, okay, I got the job today, but where's the job tomorrow? But I still got to run the job I just got. Like you're in this continual cycle of
Yeah.
getting jobs, trying to finish them, find new ones. Where am I going to put someone? And it really, in this industry, makes it really hard to focus on the business because most of the time you're focusing in the business.
Yeah, I would say, I mean, just to speak on and that one actually later about AFT 360, that sounds interesting. But yeah, like just to your point of the struggle of not just being distracted with always just working in the business. You're just like head down, like next problem, because there's a million problems always to solve. But where I think EOS has done a good job at keeping us honest is um, they're a big believer in quarterly meetings and annual planning. So it's a carved out time every single
Mm-hmm.
quarter. We do it for 6 hours. It can be larger if you got a larger team, but it's 6 hours and like it's phones off an hour focus. And like we use different tools to kind of draw up like all the like current issues right now from our team. But the goal is to come out of that meeting and like, what are the top things right now that are really holding us back as the company? And what can we implement to go fix them? And it's not going to be like close this job or like increase this margin. It's going to be like things that are truly going to fix future jobs forever. So we're going to write a process for this. We're going to go be a part of this. We're going to go, start this new neighborhood on time. So there's all these different things that like have to go in there. So that's hopefully on a quarterly basis. And then a big part of the EOS is also weekly L10 meetings. So we have a weekly ops L10 meeting every single Wednesday. It's our full team, which our team is comprised of myself, my brother, 2 project managers, and then 3 superintendents. So that's kind of the makeup of our staff. So every Wednesday we're meeting in our operations L10 meeting. And the point of that meeting is to work on the business. And we're not just talking about specific jobs. We are checking in on our quarterly rocks, which are our quarterly goals. So different people own goals and rocks that they're working on. And they're able to like, here's where I'm going, and they're reporting onto it to the group. And if the group's like, hey, like I don't really think that's like path we go down, or like that's awesome, here's another idea. So it's just a way to again hold us all accountable. And then it gives us a chance to all come together. So if someone's facing an issue on a job, this is where we do get in the business a little bit at the end of the meeting is if there's a certain issue on a job that's come up that needs to be solved. So say we learn that, hey, on this certain application of a fireplace with the roof coming into it in a dead valley, we tried this method, it didn't work. So going forward, we need to add to our RTB guide to never do this. So like we're able to, take issues, solve that one specific one for that job, but also take it a step further. And how do we have this not happen again? And then you're just rinsing and repeating. So issues come up, they get solved, and then they just keep on rotating like that.
When you're doing your weekly meeting, because not being devil's advocate, but I think some of the feedback is, we got to be productive. It takes time, like, are you guys meeting are you doing FaceTime? Are you meeting remotely? Are you together? Do you ever feel like it's too much meeting every week? Can these meetings go long, short? Like, how are you efficient, to make these so productive?
That's a great question and something that I'm asking myself. We always keep them to 90 minutes. So we start on time, we end on time, we never go over. And then we always want to rate the meeting as well at the end. So we want to rate it between 1 and 10. A 10, it's awesome. If it's below an 8, we need to talk about it. Be like, okay, is it not a good use of your time? If not, why not? So, and it's funny because I came from a production builder where like it just felt like meetings to death. It was meetings about meetings. So it was like, what are we doing here? And we started our company. It's like we're going to do it all different. And then here we are having a weekly meeting. But it's important that it's worth them coming to, and that they get enough out of it. And we try and keep everything to this one meeting. So it's tempting to be like, oh, here's this problem popped up. Let's go schedule another meeting for it. So, just making sure that it's important because like you sit there as an owner, you think like they all drove here in company trucks. They're all, like you're going through like what it costs them per hour. It's a very expensive meeting when you've got everybody there. So you really want to make sure. Yeah. So you like want to make sure that it's worth everyone's time. But, I mean, at the beginning, there's always a segue. So we're sharing our best personal and professional win over the past week. So like, that's super important to me to like really just build that connection. So we truly like know what's going on in each other's life. It's like we just had so and so's like kid's birthday, or we went on this vacation, and here's the awesome thing we saw. So like it just gives us a good chance to like keep that team camaraderie together, and then also solve some tasks together. And if we never met, we'd all just be working in these silos and not sharing any information. I mean, we got 8 active projects right now, 6 in pre-construction. All of those are like lessons learned every single day. So those all have to get back somehow, so we can continue to like grow and advance the company. We've just tried to point everything back to this one meeting.
It's funny how in construction, so like when I was in the field, I grew up in the electrical low voltage world, and when, you're working on projects, you do as builds, right? And so anyone that knows as builds, like you may have a plan set, let's just say of, in some of these commercial buildings that I did, it was a little bit different, but the architect and engineer come up with what essentially the roadmap is to build a house, right?
Yeah.
But best practice reality, you get out in the field and sometimes it's not ran exactly how they want it, whether it be mechanical or plumbing, because and so as built, you're drawing essentially what the actual condition was. And now we have Matterport and we have a lot of different things to see that, but at the time as built. But the point being is during construction, there's alterations and changes happening, and that's just part of building a house, right? Or building a commercial project. But with our companies, it's funny how if we don't meet routinely, we're not doing as builds like throughout the build or throughout the company. There's things
Yeah.
that miss. I think we've even seen it where, Jeff, who's in our pre-con, he's like, I could miss the same detail on every project, but if no one tells me, I'm just going to keep missing it till someone
Yeah,
points it out, and then I
absolutely.
could catch it. So I'm not 20 houses deep, and I'm like, oh, we got to figure this out again,
Yeah, like you got to build that safe environment too. Or like, I don't remember where I heard this, but years ago, someone was, instead of like calling someone out, just saying like the word, like, or saying the phrase "good catch." So it's like that's the mentality that like we want to breed here. Is like we're not trying to like put you on blast. Hey, you screwed this up and you put me in a bad position with whatever. It was like, good catch. Thanks for finding this. I'm going to go solve it, instead of feeling like there's kind of like egos involved. Yeah, absolutely.
Well,
And
Zach, go ahead.
yeah, I was just going to add, like, so we've got an after action report that we do. I mean, you just, I mean, think about that. So after foundation's complete, each superintendent will complete an after action report. It's 3 simple questions: what went well, what didn't go well, and what would you do different next time. After drywall, so through foundations, like the site work, the pre-construction, the client onboarding, the builder trend, and all those things. So we're kind of capturing that there. And then before we hang drywall, we do another AAR. So that's going to really grade our framing, our roofing, our mechanicals, all like the rough end process. And then we're going to do a third AAR when the project's finished. I mean, most projects for us are taking 10 to 18 months, just depending on the scope. So like these don't happen that frequently, but all those just live within the ops L10. So a superintendent knows, hey, if I just finished the foundation on the Oaks project, I'm going to bring in my AAR report to the ops L10 this week, and that's what's going to be one of the discussion topics. And we just drive so much good stuff from those conversations. Just like taking the time to look in the rear view. Like we're always just like, especially me, like I'm always looking forward, like the next sell, the next thing. But like we got to slow down and like recognize what went well so we can do it again. And then let's talk about like if a trade just like let us down or didn't perform, if we forgot to ask a question, or this is something that like we're lacking on now, is like getting clients into builder trend. We just send them the login and they're like, all right, figure it out. But there's never like, here's how you get in the selection. Here's how you read your budget. Like it can be fairly confusing, So like those are things that, like we've like learned along the way, and that's all come from. And none of these are like silver bullets to like make you the perfect company. They're all just these little bitty we're big believing like 1% better. So if we can just get 1% better this quarter, today, in this meeting, like that's all we're trying to do.
It's amazing because, when you get to say level 1, you're like, okay, at the end of a project, let's think about what went well, what didn't, what could we change? Did any trades not perform right?
Yeah.
But the upgraded level, like you're talking about, you're not waiting 12 months later, 24 months later. I mean, you're doing this at different phases of construction.
Yeah. So, I mean, one, you just forget. And just as like humans, it seems like we forget the bad, and you're just like,
right?
yeah, you're like, maybe the foundation really wasn't that bad. Maybe the footing contractor wasn't, so like, I think it's just important. And also like, just imagine like we've got 6 homes in pre-construction right now. And we want to catch stuff that those are about to go through. So if we waited to the end, like we're just like, I mean, it's already a big ship to turn. Like it's tough to make a change and like have it really impact future jobs. So, and that's a part of it too. So let's just get down another path. So say we learn what's a simple example of capturing a selection correctly for this would just got us. So we do all real wood closet built-ins. We often forget to get the pull selection for the drawer stacks in there, right? Like we're good at getting cabinet hardware, but we're bad at getting the drawer stacks. So we go back, we add that to the initial selection matrix is what we call it. But we also need to go back to all the jobs that are in pre-construction and all the jobs that have not yet gotten to trim and be sure that we've gotten all that stuff. So that's just another layer of it is to, once you find the problem, you've got to go make sure that you're fixing, the future ones, but also taking care of the ones that are underway as well.
And one thing about you, Zach, that correct me if I'm wrong, but you often talk about pack mentality, right? How has that shaped like your company culture?
Yeah, so the pack mentality is a fun play on words, obviously with the Black Wolf, but just always looking out for each other, and then like that, like the pack would be like our groups. Like we're always doing fun stuff together. So we have, even as small as we are, we have a fun committee, and their main sole purpose is to plan fun outing events for our team to go do. We just did one last Friday, but these aren't always super extravagant. Like we went and got burgers from this food truck, and then went in this a place that makes mead, like wine, beer kind of thing. So, anyways, like went and got lunch and just like hung out outside of work. So, and then we're always coming together. So we've got a pre-drywall inspection, and then what we call our yellow tape inspection, which is at the very end, and the internal QC before we turn the home over. We bring everybody together and walk the home. So it's not just like this one superintendent building this house out on an island. We're going to bring everybody out. And again, like that could be looked at as like, hey, like they're going to come out here and just call me out for stuff that I missed. But in our mind, it's like, we want to be sure that you're set up for success and you don't forget something, or I just had this mistake on this job. Make sure you don't forget this thing. So we're always just bringing it back to like, keep the team together. And then expanding out to like clients. Like we want them to feel like it's a boutique experience. Like we've really tailored our home building process just to them. So like bringing them into the family, so to speak. So like, I mean, these are, as you're well aware, you got a lengthy pre-construction, you got build the home, and you got warranty. So like we need to really be sure that we're like cultivating a really good environment for our clients and us. And I mean, it goes well most of the times, but sometimes it doesn't. And like we've got to course correct sometimes and like find the right structure. So yeah, that's how we've really just tied that into a company culture. What about you guys? What are y'all doing to stay connected? I mean, because you've grown quite a bit. So I mean, it probably gets harder and harder, I would imagine, like the more you got going on.
Yeah, I think it's very tough. We found that we do production meetings, so similar. We bring everyone to the office, and those are, everyone's on an island, right? They're out there fighting these battles, run their projects. But when you bring them into the office, there's that camaraderie built, and friendship. And one thing I think, just small little things like we celebrate everyone's anniversaries in the company, like how long they've been with AFT. We celebrate, their birthdays. We're on a group text. One thing that, of course, we have company outings and stuff and these little details, but, Spencer started, as we're looking out there, like a finer touch moment, because, right, AFT stands for a finer touch construction. And so he says, what are some of the like finer moments that we've had out there, and it could be a lot of things. It could be, a trade that's performing. It could be a win with a client. It could be whatever it is. And so, I think, to your point, there's so many times that we focus on, the negative, and we're similar to you where we're doing team walks, AFT team walks throughout the build, before drywall, at the end. And it's not to be critical to come walk your house, Zach, and be like, hey, here's your 300-page punch list. But it's more like, just another set of eyes. Like there's no ego. We're trying to build the best home we can. There's stuff that gets missed, and, we just want to go through that. So, I think, like anything, open communication, open dialogue. When people feel that you're trying to work on systems, I think that's where maybe at times my team's been frustrated. They feel like they bring ideas to the table and either we're too busy to acknowledge them or we don't implement them. That's where you can lose like their focus and attention. So it's really important to listen to that feedback, even if you're not going to implement everything, but at least, you have that kind of open door policy.
Yeah, that's interesting. Like, you bring that up. It is tough because you can see their excitement and you want to go implement it. Like, you want to do everything, but it's just like you got to make, like, it's not the right time right now, or like it just doesn't make sense to do that. So you gotta. That's a tough balance because you're right. Like, if someone gets shut down enough, like, they're gonna become disengaged in the company, and they're not like fully bought in, and that, like, that can kind of spiral quickly. I've heard you talk about Spencer before in the past. It sounds like he's like key employee. So what is the difference in his role and your role at AFT?
That's a good question. So Spencer, he and I were actually in college together, and we worked together out of college for a while, and then he went and did structural steel for like 8 years, and then ended up, I started AFT about the time he went into the commercial world, and then hired him 8 years later to come join AFT, and now he's been with me, I think 7 years now, almost 7.
Yeah.
We're old timers, dates us a little bit how old we are, been around. But what's interesting is, there were a few valuable things I think for Spencer too. As he worked on, big hospitals, stadiums, downtown buildings, in Phoenix and other parts of the country. And when you're in those meetings, it's a little bit different how they run these construction projects, these big commercial companies. When we hear the word design build, typically that would mean, hey, I'm an architect, I'm a designer, I'm a builder, I'm kind of doing everything. I'm designing the house, I'm building it. In the commercial world, they may not be design build, but what's different about them is they actually engineer these projects with the engineering team. So for example, if the GC is being awarded, this project, the architect and engineer actually ask them to bring in some of their subs to help design and engineer, cost effectively. So they don't just come up with a design that's cost prohibitive. So it's a very inclusive. And so because he was at those meetings, you're also responsible for manpower. They do these pool plan meetings where he had to go in and commit to dates and durations to the GC. His peers are in the room. And so when you have someone like that, he came into AFT and he's like, Brad, when we're doing a hillside build, why don't we have a meeting with everyone up to framing? We can have earthwork and masonry and concrete and waterproofing and, framers and all these different companies come in and give us commitments so that they're building the schedule, not just us, telling them what to do.
Yeah.
And so really,
which is a different mindset. Yeah. Cause like, it's always us just like come up with a schedule based on experience and past jobs, but like bringing them into the mix is actually a good idea.
Yeah. When you have them in the conference room and they're like, okay, Zach, you better get done by this date or else it's going to back up Zach on his. And so you're kind of committing to your peers all in the conference room.
Yeah. And builds camaraderie too.
Yeah. It builds camaraderie between the subs and they become friends and exchange phone numbers. And so there's a lot of teamwork. And so really, he's an expert in Bluebeam. And so as you think about Spencer's, really good at, you see a problem and we don't want that problem to happen again. So let's figure out how we put that on an SOP and get that for others to understand. And I have quite a few, I have Megan who is doing that with accounting and the project coordinators. And I have Jeff doing that with like my pre-con team. So we have these different department heads that are working together to figure out, okay, how can we fix our department and what that baton looks like? And granted, this is like hours of time we spend weekly and we're still not there. It's kind of like you. It's like, you're never going to be there, but we're definitely much better today than we were, 4 or 5 weeks ago, 4 or 5 months ago, 4 years ago,
100%. Yeah. Like I get caught up in the now and I'm like, man, we have like so much to go fix. But then like when I take time, and like, it's just something like a personal journey of mine I'm trying to fix. It's just like realizing where like the gap in the game mindset, if you read that book, and just being able to appreciate what you've like all the gain that you've made and not just focusing on the gap that you got right now. So that's a tough to do. And we are starting, you mentioned handoffs from, pre-con to field. That's something that we're starting, like as we build out more of a system and like in our org chart starts to fill out, we're struggling with that handoff from sales to pre-con and then from pre-con to field. Like that's that's become ever apparent this year of like, we've got to do a fantastic job there, because these clients get, they get locked into me, and then I've got to be like, well, here's your project manager. It's going to take you through pre-construction now. And, like they've got to download everything that's in my head and like, win the client over again. And that's going to happen again when the superintendent comes on the scene. And it's like, now like they've got to become, you know, the client's favorite person, so to speak, because like we can't just have everybody on every project the whole time. So yeah, those are tough.
Yeah, it is. It's really tough. And you mentioned book, right? I mean, I know that that's important to you. I mean, speak about, um, continued education, unreasonable hospitality. I know that's something that you and
Yeah.
others have really stood behind on what that looks like. I mean, how have resources outside of your industry impacted the way you do business?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I've found that I'm easily inspired. So I'm definitely like the type that like loves these kind of books, like the self-help books, like the motivation books, like those things are just, right up my alley. And so one, like, I guess like top three books would be Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink, that really talk about like being disciplined, being a really good operator. When I was in production building, it was just like so applicable to like my day-to-day role. So that was awesome. And then when we started Black Wolf in 2022, Taylor, business partner, came to me and was like, hey, I just read this book. I think it's absolutely incredible. My brother and I own a restaurant too. So he was like, I think it'd be really good for you as a restaurant, but I really think it'd be great for us to like go into our core values and our planning session for this company with these principles in mind. So read the book and was just like, it was exactly what we were all feeling. We just couldn't verbalize. We're like, how can we do an age-old industry, but just do it better and like not have to be super expensive? And these are all like little things that we've just implemented over the years that just, I mean, kind of go back to that like Pat mentality of like just these little touch points that like we've implemented along the way. And one of my favorite quotes from that book is that service is black and white. So you want this, you perform the service, like black and white agreement, right? But hospitality is color. So like, sounds cheesy, but like we're trying to make it like a boutique experience. Like you're not just another number for us. So I've kind of broken this down in my head in like three different ways. So we got internal and reasonable hospitality, our clients, and then our trades and like, designers and architects. So we just really try and, like grace notes is what the book called them, about like being able to like make it feel personal. So we're always going to recognize like just like you're saying, birthday, anniversaries, spouses' birthdays. We're going to send them a card and flowers. If someone gets a promotion, we're going to send their wife flowers as well. Be like, hey, just want to say congratulations. So just like those little things along the way. We've gotten all of our employees company trucks. Like again, we just want them to feel like, they're in a brand new Toyota Tacoma and it's all logoed out and like it looks sweet. It's like super reliable. We're going to take care of all the maintenance, all the gas. We're all like, swag is huge. Like you can buy a lot of loyalty with swag. So we're always getting new shirts, new hats, new hoodies, like sun shirts. So like we're always having fun with like good swags. And then like that stuff is just really fun to like give away to trades and the clients and designers and doing all kinds of stuff like that. Like just to help like build the brand, and just those things are just fun to do also. Another thing I wrote down was a weekly one-on-one. So this has been like one of the most powerful things, and I can give anybody advice on managing people, is to meet with all your direct reports once a week and have just an open conversation with them about what's going on this week for you, what's really taking up a lot of your capacity right now. So like what's keeping you up at night, talking through those things, and just being there to bounce ideas off of, or just give them the next step. Like you're not solving the problem for them, you're just being a sounding board. So it's really turned into like therapy sessions, so to speak. But like that's been the most powerful thing that like I've seen. And when we first started them, it was just another meeting, and like I was tempted because I was like, I'm running wide open. This feels like it's just taking up time. And at the time, I only had two guys with us, and I remember asking like, hey, could we go to like once a month or like every other week? And they were both like, no, like this is the most important time of my week to come here, know that I got an hour of your time with like nobody else here. We can just talk about it's kind of like just going into projects and going into personal stuff. So um, that's been kind of like groundbreaking for us. And then sorry, I don't want to just like keep droning on, but I just kind of love this topic, and I think it's how we've been able to build our brand and just be able to like separate ourselves from other builders in town.
What pain points have you had, implementing some of these strategies? Maybe it's, how tough is it to do the weekly follow up with their team? As you've, brought in, aspects of unreasonable hospitality, or some of these self help. Because sometimes, um, I think other business owners express where you go to this maybe conference or builder bond, or you go to this event and you come out inspired. You're like, we're gonna
Yeah,
do this, and then
yeah.
someone's like, oh great, Zach's back. We got another change. Like we gotta figure
I
this
know.
out. Like here we go.
Yeah, and like they all know that I'm really into podcasts and like bettering myself, so they're like, "Oh, here we go." But
Yeah.
I mean, my philosophy is to never jerk the wheel. So like, never come back and like reinvent yourself, and just come back with like a few nuggets. So if you go to the builder show, just yes, take lots of notes, but then sit down and get back and just be like, "What's the one thing that I can go easily execute?" Like, and you use like the decision quadrant where it's like highest value dollar wise and easiest to implement. Like, go do those first. So like I just always, you know, and it's a struggle because I do hear these things. I'm like, man, like we really could, like this could be a revolutionary idea kind of thing. But then I got to remember, like, we're doing a lot of really good stuff here. Like, let's just like slowly take a nugget or two. Um, and then yeah, like making the time for those meetings is, I mean, some weeks they turn to phone calls or they turn to Teams meetings. Like we can't meet in person, but we always be sure we never miss more than 1 week. So if someone's out of town or I have to miss for some reason, like we're not going to miss the following week. And then I ask them all once a quarter, like what, like, is this still an important hour for you every week? Hope that they say yes. And if not, like what would make this the most important hour of your week? Like what would have to be true to make this the best time of your week? And just be quiet and listen and like let them tell me like what they want. So that way I can cater my time to them on that one-on-one. Um, we know we're now at a point to where, so for a while I was completing all the one-on-ones and it did become a lot. So we were
Right.
like, we need to kind of develop an org chart. So we didn't even do that until January this year. And we ended up promoting a guy to a senior superintendent. So now the other two superintendents roll up to him. So he's got two one-on-ones with a week, and then I've got a one-on-one with him and the project manager. So, but that just, like, the more growth you have, the more you have like this like middle management layer, and you start to like not have your hands in everything. So it's scary as like an owner to like do that, but it's also like we're like pretty clear on like where we want to go, and I'm gonna have to release some of that stuff to other people, and we've got an awesome team. So I mean, I feel great about it, but that has been something like I've had to relinquish some of that one-on-one time, and like I'm pouring into these employees, but like now my senior super's pouring into his employees, and then we're about to add another one. So like that's just a way to keep it manageable. Is like, don't try and do more than 3 to 4 a week, or it's just going to become like all that you do.
Yeah, it can become cumbersome. I mean, that's the hard thing about running business. Like to your point, it's it can add up. You only have so much time in the day, and you have to focus on the priorities. As you apply this, these processes to the actual building side, you focus on the people, you're working your best to the operation. Um, what do you feel is the biggest misconception clients have about building a custom home?
Great question. Biggest misconception. Um,
Or maybe it's like the biggest challenge that you seem to have with your clients, on any project. Like, what is it that, the pain points that they're having that you're having as you try to, work through these?
I would say just timely decisions. Like we do our best to really set our clients up to make decisions on the front end, to set good deadlines and explain the why, but we still just find ourselves in these decision delays that can lead to some budget uncertainty. So we haven't made, all the selections on like the trim package, and we're now, well into construction. Like that's likely going to be a budget bust because we haven't even figured out what kind of trim we're putting in the home, because we haven't gotten a bid. So, and then you kind of compound that, it can just get tough. And then it also affects the schedule because you're kind of gas break. Like, okay, I'm going to go work on the trim selection package for a few hours this week. And then now ball's back in their court, and then they send it back. So then you scrub it. So it's like all that stuff is just tougher once like the project gets underway. So that's probably one of the bigger things that we struggle with, is just making selections on time and then being very thorough. And then some of this is on us too. Like, we've gotten way better at providing our clients and designers, because we're all outside designers. It's no one on our team. So we work with different people. It's some of them more detailed than others. And we have learned that, like, we need to give them a very clear playbook of like what we expect back, so that we can really set them up for success. And all of that has just taken time to build. And but yeah, I would say those design selections along the way. And I mean, we've been blessed to have plenty of work in town. And we just, and then I think everybody wants to maximize their budget. So they like want to, here's my budget. Let's set a house budget at start right there. It's like, we're all trying to tell them, like, come in below, like what everyone just wants the most that they can for their dollar.
It's so hard. I mean, it's funny as you say that. I think, like, with every project, it's the same thing, right? You have the reality of things, and then you have cost. And, how do you have this conversation? Because you have to balance too, Zach, like craftsmanship with the reality of budgets, schedules, labor shortage. How are those conversations handled when you're trying to be the bad guy? You got to deliver the pricing and, still get them to the table.
Yeah, I mean, I found just owning that position up front. So, like, our first kickoff meeting, I'm like, hey, like, I understand that, like, your budget is this, and do I have your permission to, like, be the bad cop and, like, the fun police, where you're like getting really excited about something that'll like bring you back to reality. So I try early on to set those expectations, and then I'm very honest that, like, hey, like, we're like, there are probably three things that are going to cause a budget overage: unforeseen site conditions, like break and take off things that are like harder to like get hard numbers on. You're going to go on vacation, see something really cool that you want, and you're going to come back and you don't want to change it. Or three, we're just going to miss it. Like, we're going to forget this in our estimate. We're going to forget to bid it. And it's going to be those three things are going to make up your difference. And we're always trying to figure, like, what's the target percentage of like overage to expect, or like variance to expect on their job. And right now, like, we're telling people like 10% is about what we see most jobs go over based on those three things. But it gets tough. But like, yeah, that's just. And then we're very big on documenting everything. And if there's a change order request, then we're going to get a price, present it, so like updates the budget, like all those things, of course, have to happen. But just getting the client's permission on the front end, and just being up and just shooting them straight.
Yeah, it's tough. I'm telling you, again, going back to the hamster wheel, it's just tough. It's tough to, there's so many things to factor in. I wish I could keep some of my clients from going on vacation. I say that kidding aside, but there is truth. I've had many projects where they go on vacation, or they're traveling, and they have an idea, or they see something on Instagram and they want to make that change. And we're custom builders. We're never going to tell them no, but that's really goes back to us, how we set expectations about timeline, how that affects things. And sometimes we try to be the hero. I feel like every time I've tried to be the hero, I become the zero. So
100%, dude. If I'm like, hey, can we do the painting for less? And you're like, in your back of your mind, you're like, we do have a cheaper painter that we could bring in. Like, I could like save the day here, but it's like, do you want me to disappoint you now or later? So like, it's always a balance there for sure.
Yeah.
Hey, I wanted to ask you about specs versus customs, because we do. So we're in a very spec heavy market. So it's very common to see 3, 4, 5, even up to like $15 million specs here in Nashville. And it's a big part of our business. It helped grow us initially. Didn't anticipate on doing many, but we had a good opportunity early on, and we kind of grown that. And now we're kind of forecasting in the next year, like half our revenue next year will be off of us spec homes. And the challenge there, right, is like, you've got more of a business decision to make on the spec side. So but we're implementing all these other custom features and building science practices and better trades that like end up costing more and more, because ultimately like what we want as a company is like to build the best product that we possibly can, and we want it to like last forever. Like that's like true quality homes. And I feel like sometimes to make these spec deals pencil out, we are pressured highly to drop that spec level or to use a different trade. So I'd be curious, how do you balance that?
It's a good question. And for that reason specifically, there are some builders that won't do specs for that reason, right? Because they've built probably a name or reputation. Because the short answer is it's really hard to do both. And the reason being, with the spec world, there's so much risk. And because of that risk, you have to offset it. It doesn't mean you have to build the worst house and cut everything out and use the worst trades who aren't licensed. No, there's a balance. But there's definitely a limitation to certain trades, certain product that's going to go into a custom build a suit as opposed to a spec. And so what I would say is, depending on who the company is, and so for us, we do have a couple specs we're going to be working on. In fact, just today, before you and I are sitting down for the podcast, we sat down with one of our investment groups that's designed this incredible home. But again, there'll be some concessions on building science in the house, but nothing that would ever that would prevent this home from being really high quality and standing the test of time. But with that being said, it's a much more expensive. I mean, this is a spec home that's going to be over 20 million, right? An incredible build.
Yeah.
So when people are coming in saying, "Brad, we want to do a $1.5 million spec," that's probably not something that we would do. And it's not that we're arrogant. It's just, there are levels to, not every spec has to be 20 million. A lot of them do $5 million specs, $8 million specs, and do very well. I think you just have to understand what you're willing to let go of. And some of us who have built net zero and done some custom stuff, there are only a few partners that appreciate that. And then you can kind of work between the lines. But I'll give you, sorry to be long-winded. I'm an investor that I've been wanting to do stuff with forever, and they do a great job in town. And he came to me and showed me what they're building for and what the builders agreed to. I'm like, I don't know how you got this deal. That poor builder that signed up for this. Like, there's no way. And he laughed. He's like, yeah, I knew you wouldn't. That's why we're not having AFT do it, kind of thing. So you just have to build a reputation, stay true to it. But yeah, there's going to be concessions, but you just want to make sure they're not too much.
Yeah, agree. That's where we're starting to build this list of like know your no-goes, and it's like we're not going to drop below these certain things in these categories. I mean, because we've got a brand to protect, and we've been fortunate to keep like steadily, building that brand, and just like a healthy fear there, I guess, of like going backwards potentially, and then something that I'm always I feel like I'm having to like put my sales hat on to our team to be like, these are great for the revenue to continue to get the growth that we want, and custom take forever to get started, blah, 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 blah. Like, that's why it's good to go do these. But at the same time, it can be a battle. Yeah.
It's tough. So, what do you do for fun?
So I've got young kids. I've got some kids at home, so I spend a lot of time with them. But my main thing I do is I'm pretty into exercising. That's become like my one outlet. I used to do a lot of other things, and now it seems like that's my one free time of the day. Is I'm a part of F3 here in Nashville, just a local men's group, and we meet most mornings early before the sun rises, and that's really like my time to hang out with friends and my time to work out. Toying with the idea of signing up for this 100K run. I've done some 50Ks, but I've never done 100K yet, so I'm thinking about doing that. But I go in seasons where like I
Who wants to run 60 miles, dude? Come on, bro.
I don't know. I was thinking it'd be cool to like check the box, just like do it one time. I've been way more into weightlifting the past year, so like this would be like a pretty big like mindset
you're
change
gonna have to
like
get lean.
Start running more.
60 miles. Man.
Yeah. So I don't know, but yeah. So that's kind of it for me.
That's amazing. I try to get out golf when I can. It's been a little tough as of late. Right now, it's been 110 for us, so we still golf in the summers here, but it's definitely not as enjoyable as the winter. But no, it's chasing kids. I got a bunch of sports. I still play in a few basketball leagues, so I stay that's where I get the competitive side out is, talking trash and in basketball. And then I wish I could talk trash in golf. I'm just not good enough. So I just go play for
Say,
fun. So,
yeah, agreed.
yeah, but
So
it's good.
so you got six
Six,
kids?
six,
Six.
six kids
Okay.
and a son-in-law. So now, yeah, seven. So,
Nice. So I've got four. My wife's been pushing me for the past year plus for the fifth. And I just got to ask you, like, like 2 to 3 was a lot. Honestly, the fourth really wasn't that big a deal, but I'm like seriously considering it now. So I don't know. As a man with a lot of kids, what's your advice?
well, I should get Paul on here. Paul has 9 who works with me, but
Oh my
all
gosh.
from the same wife. It's amazing. They've had 9 together. They're incredible kids. I would say 1 is a change, 2 is really hard, 3 you're outnumbered. But really after 4 or 5, it's not too bad. Honestly, the only hard thing is when you travel. If you're going to travel, then that amount of flights, or depending on where you go, getting a rental car big enough, going to a restaurant gets pricey, and can you get a table for
Yeah.
8? But no, overall, I love it. Like, they're great kids. They help out. They learn a lot from each other. I'm definitely a proponent, so I'm not going to tell you what to do. But honestly, it's 3, 4, 5, 6. There's not a huge difference. They all stress me
Yeah.
out. They like to fight with each other. It's like it's
Yeah.
normal dad stuff.
Yeah. That's funny. I'm just trying to pull everybody I can who's got more than 4 just to see what it's like. But
So
yeah.
it's not too much different. The cost is different, but
Yeah.
other than that, it's not too bad. And you just have, it's definitely never a dull moment. I don't have any dull moments. We'll say that.
Oh,
So.
I'm sure. Yeah.
Well, man,
Sweet.
Zach, you've been amazing. I could talk to you forever, and I know you're busy and you spent over an hour with us. So can't thank you enough. So for those listening, where can they find you?
No, Brad, just want to say thanks to you as well for having me on. This was definitely fun. I enjoyed the conversation. So most of our activity online is going to be on Instagram. So at Blackwolf Build, our website, blackwolfbuild.com. You can check out our projects, and would love to have you follow along.
Well, amazing, Zach. Well, look forward to connecting in the future. Thanks for joining.